Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Today I want to talk a little bit about the impact that air pollution has when it comes to our overall health. So when we think about the detoxification process, when we think about the impact that can have on our heart, on our liver, and on our brain, I think it's very essential that we really get into why it is that healthy lifestyle choices, that includes the foods that you're eating, that includes the supplements that you are taking, and that certainly includes trying to limit your exposure to things that we know can be detrimental to our health. So I am Amanda Williams, MD, MPH, and let's get right to it. Let's talk a little bit about chronic low-grade inflammation. If you keep that in check in your middle ages, you'll do much better when you get into your 70s. So this is, one of those areas that you always want to be aware of, and you want to make sure that you're choosing good healthy foods and that you're incorporating good omega-3 fatty acids into your everyday diet. So here's a study that came out of the UK, published in the British Medical Journal, talking about how air pollution may be linked to heightened dementia risk. So we've talked about the role of the cardiovascular system and the link with dementia. Now they're talking about air pollution. And they said air pollution is now an established risk factor for heart disease, stroke, and respiratory disease. But they really wanted to look at the impact of air pollution when it came to neurodegenerative disorders, such as the development of dementia. And what they focused on was a really large population. So they looked at the data from over 130,000 people in the UK between the ages of 50 and 79. And these are people who had not been diagnosed with any type of cognitive dysfunction. So no one had dementia or Alzheimer's. And they really wanted to see, when it came to their air pollutant exposure. And they based this off of, proximity to the airport, proximity to, high, heavy traffic road areas. And they wanted to see that correlation between how the air pollutants themselves were actually impacting the overall brain. And interestingly enough, they were able to draw that conclusion. They said that those who were living in areas that had the highest percentage of low quality or, higher levels of air pollutants in the air had a much heightened risk, about a 40% greater risk of being diagnosed with dementia than those that were living in areas where air pollutants were much lower. So once again, we have to think to ourselves, if you live in the city, sometimes it's hard to avoid the air pollutants that you're exposed to on a regular basis. But what can you be doing to try to blunt that or to mitigate that? And this is where your products such as the Detox HX and the Oranges HX both come into play. So when you're looking at the Detox, for example, and this is the tableted form, this is basically combining key nutrients, key antioxidants that really help the body when it comes to that proper detoxification of all of these different things that we're exposed to. So it has NAC in it. So that's N-acetylcysteine. And we know that NAC is this really wonderful nutrient that helps our body in terms of enhancing the glutathione production. And why does glutathione matter? Because that's your body's primary antioxidant. But when it comes to the aging process and when it comes to the assault that the body is under, when it comes to air pollutants, when it comes to chemicals in your food, oftentimes that glutathione level starts to diminish, which leaves us open to a lot of cellular damage. And once that damage occurs, it can be very difficult to reverse that. So this is why you always want to be ahead of the game. So if you know that you're living in the city, you know that your exposure to pollutants is going to be higher, even though you can't technically see the pollutant. Sometimes you can, but most time you don't see that in the air that we're breathing. But you always want to be on top of that. So having NAC as part of your daily routine, very good idea. But this also combines other key antioxidants. So when we look at alpha lipoic acid, for example, we know that alpha lipoic acid plays a really essential role in terms of the recycling of all of our other key antioxidants. When you're looking at things like vitamin C, for example, vitamin E, we know the important role that both vitamin C and vitamin E play when it comes to liver health, for example, and being able to fend off oxidative stress and damage. So it has alpha lipoic acid in it, and it has sulforaphane in it. Now, what in the world is sulforaphane? Sulforaphane is derived primarily from broccoli extract. So when we're talking about our cruciferous vegetables and all of the many benefits that go along with those cruciferous vegetables, we have to really focus in on broccoli in particular. So that's why I encourage people, follow that Mediterranean style diet. Incorporate things like broccoli into your everyday diet. And remember, try to do organic. So you're minimizing your exposure to chemicals, to pesticides. We know that those can be damaging to our cells over time. So this contains sulforaphane. And the key point of having that sulforaphane in that formulation is really to allow the liver to have this heightened ability to really target a lot of these microtoxins that we are exposed to, a lot of the pollutants that we breathe every day. And if you are choosing to eat things like processed foods, it can also help in terms of the chemical exposure from those processed foods. But I do not encourage anyone to be doing processed foods. Try to eat clean, organic, ideally. But we don't stop there. We also include ellagic acid. Now, ellagic acid is really quite interesting when you look at different polyphenols. This is what makes pomegranates so incredibly powerful, is that actual ellagic acid. So when we're talking about, things like toxic exposures, heavy metals, all these different chemicals that we as humans are exposed to, something such as ellagic acid can be very beneficial in allowing your body to have the ability to help to enhance that proper detoxification. And so we're always looking for means to be able to do this. And so when you think about pomegranate and all of the things that you hear about pomegranate, the main focus is always on that ellagic acid. Oftentimes you don't hear about the actual, true benefit of something, but it is the ellagic acid. And then we have one more nutrient that's contained within the Detox HX formulation, and that is Philanthus amyris extract. And this is a really nice addition to this formulation. And part of the reason why the Philanthus amyris extract is in this is an herbal extract, so it's plant-based, is it not only has really wonderful antioxidant properties to it, it actually does other things too. It is very targeted towards easing inflammation. So if the body is under stress, we know that the immune system can release things like cytokines, for example. And when you have an abundance of this inflammatory response and all these different cytokines and leukotrienes and prostaglandins being released, then that can drive up chronic low-grade inflammation. We always want to avoid that. Because remember, chronic low-grade inflammation is what leads us down that path to heart disease, to, lowering cognitive ability. So having the Philanthus amyris really is a nice addition. So we are not only bolstering our natural antioxidants with the NAC and the alpha lipoic acid, but then we're adding in these plant-based nutrients, things like the ellagic acid coming from pomegranate, looking at that sulforaphane from the broccoli extract, looking at the Philanthus amyris, which is going to help not only with the antioxidant status in the body, but also with easing inflammation. So when you start to break down some of these different nutrients found within this formulation, you would be quite amazed by how extensive the research has been on these key nutrients. We can look at the sulforaphane, for example. There was a study that was published back in 2015 that is really quite impressive. And what they were looking at specifically was the impact of the sulforaphane derived from broccoli and its resultant benefit on the liver. So they said it had the ability to improve hepatic abnormalities. So in this particular study, this was a randomized, placebo-controlled, double-blind trial. These are the ones we always like to look at because you have a placebo group and then you have the group that was actually given the sulforaphane. And so they took a group of men who have been diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So this is a problem when you have fatty liver disease. That means that the liver itself is not functioning the way that it should be. It is struggling. And so what they did is they gave them the broccoli sprout extract. So derived from that is that sulforaphane. And they were looking at their liver function markers. So they were looking at levels of AST, levels of ALT, for example. They were looking at the GDP levels. They were also looking at oxidative stress markers. And so it's quite comprehensive in terms of the way that they were actually assessing the impact of that sulforaphane. And what they found was in the group of men that they gave the sulforaphane to, they had a significant reduction in terms of those liver enzymes. So it was showing improvement that the liver itself was starting to function in a much more optimal way, which is key when you think about metabolic detoxification. So in conclusion of this particular study, they said dietary supplementation with broccoli sprout extract containing sulforaphane is likely to be a highly effective way for improving liver function through the reduction of oxidative stress. That's impressive stuff. Now, when you're using the Detox HX formulation, you are yielding that benefit of the sulforaphane, along with all the other key nutrients. And we know that when it comes to sulforaphane, this has been looked at and studied across the board for a variety of different human health benefits, including even for respiratory health. So they did an interesting study over at Johns Hopkins University looking at the impact of sulforaphane extract on bronchoprotective response. So for those who had more of the reactionary airway diseases, they found that when they gave them sulforaphane, they had a 60% improvement. So it just shows you how powerful certain things from nature truly are when it comes to, the way our body reacts. And this is sometimes, I think, overlooked. And when we're thinking about what we do every single day, oftentimes people say, well, I try and eat healthy and I try and take, good multivitamin. I take my fish oil, which is all great. But if you're in the city, you have to think about other things that can arise, such as your overexposure to things like air pollutants and what you want to be doing about that. I mean, study after study has showed the negative implications of air pollution on human health. When you're thinking about cardiovascular health, when you think about brain health, obviously respiratory health. Study out of Queen Mary University over in London was looking at how even low levels of air pollution was directly linked to serious changes within the heart. And the way that they were able to determine that was through MRI imaging. And they were looking at the ventricles. That's the, important pumping chambers within the heart. And they could see this significant change in terms of the structure of the heart. So for the even low levels of air pollution, they were seeing these really serious changes within the heart. So this is just something that I like people to be aware of. I like you to know that there are really wonderful options out there for you when it comes to making sure that you're covering all of those bases. And then we have the oranges HX. Combining that up with the Detox HX is because the oranges is very beneficial for heart health, for brain health, and obviously for liver health as well. Why is that? Because it has key nutrients such as the very important amino acid taurine. Now, when you think about taurine, oftentimes we think solely of the central nervous system, or we think about the cardiovascular system, because we find high levels of taurine in excitable tissues. And so when you think about the central nervous system, that's definitely an excitatory system. But you also have to think about the role that it plays when it comes to liver function. And this, to me, is kind of one of those additional benefits. Now, taurine itself is one of the most abundant amino acids that's found in the human body. And when you think about what its role is on a regular basis in terms of regulating the central nervous system, in terms of helping to enhance cardiovascular function and the proper pumping of the heart, supporting the myocytes, the muscle cells of the heart, You also look at the neuroprotective benefits that go along with taurine as well. Remember, it's in the excitatory tissues. But then you have to look at what else is it doing. Oftentimes people aren't even aware that proper taurine in the body actually helps with insulin sensitivity. So it helps with maintaining and regulating healthy blood glucose levels. It helps to support your eyes. And oftentimes people are not aware of that. All of these multiple benefits that go along with utilizing taurine on a regular basis. And then clearly when we look at liver function, we know that taurine is playing a key role in that. Part of the way that it's working within the liver is it's promoting antioxidants. And so this, once again, the more antioxidants that we have in our system, the better off we are when it comes to being able to fend off oxidative stress and avoiding damage. So in the Oranges HX, this is very simple to use because you just take a scoop of that, add it in with some water, tastes really nice, but you're getting really wonderful nutrients. You get dimethylglycine. And why is that important? Because it's helping, once again, to make that glutathione. It has inositol. We know that inositol plays a key and essential role when it comes to heart health, when it comes to brain health. Inositol helps in terms of cell-to-cell communication. And when you think about the way that the liver cells, those little hepatocytes, need to work in synergy together to allow for proper metabolic detoxification every day, having something such as the Oranges HX is giving you across the board all of these different benefits. So you have all these different nutrients. It also has some green coffee extract in that. Oftentimes they don't talk about that, but green coffee bean extract contains a constituent in it called chlorogenic acid. And the chlorogenic acid is very beneficial, once again, for not only heightening our antioxidant defenses, but also for that enhancement of insulin sensitivity. So when we're talking about blood sugar regulation, green coffee bean extract, very, very beneficial. This formulation also has a little ginseng in that as well. We know ginseng is very beneficial when it comes to cell energy production. So when you're using that Oranges HX formulation, you are getting all of these many system benefits. We're helping with cell energy. We're helping to support that cell-to-cell communication in the heart, in the brain, in the liver. We're helping to enhance our body's ability to, take in more taurine, which we see all of those key benefits that go along with that as well. And then obviously you have a little coenzyme Q10 added into this along with that ginseng. So you're getting two different nutrients that really help to enhance cellular energy production. And at the end of the day, we know that if our mitochondria, the energy maker of the cell, has that ability to take in key nutrients that we're taking supplementation-wise and turn those nutrients into energy for us, then that's a really good thing, because the last thing we want to have occur is mitochondrial dysfunction. In the setting of mitochondrial dysfunction, the cells themselves struggle to perform the daily tasks that we need them to do to keep us healthy. So when you look at everything in totality and you think about what we're up against in the world when it comes to, air pollutants, when it comes to different chemical exposures, you certainly want to take a proactive approach to this. And that's why that combination of the Oranges HX along with the Detox HX. And the Detox HX, that's tablets that you take. Very easy for you to incorporate that wonderful formulation into your daily routine. And I always tell people, even if you're not taking them every single day, it's still advantageous to throw them into your routine at least 3 or 4 times out of the week.
Because as I always say, the key to aging gracefully is being proactive and not reactive. So that is all that I have for you for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning into the Invite Health podcast. Remember, you can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcasts. Do make sure that you subscribe and you leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. And we will see you next time for another episode of the Invite Health podcast.